The reframe. Emotions aren't obstacles. They're messengers with timing. If you've been on a spiritual path for any length of time, you've probably heard some version of this idea. Don't get attached, don't cling, don't identify, don't take the bait. And there is real wisdom in that. The problem is that many of us hear those teachings with a nervous system that is already tired, already braced, already doing its best to keep us safe. So instead of receiving those teachings as an invitation into freedom, we translate them into a demand. Stop feeling, stop reacting, stop being human. That translation is one of the quiet ways spiritual people get stuck. Because when you treat emotions like obstacles, you don't actually become free of them. You just become afraid of them. And fear is not neutrality. Fear is not peace. Fear is tension wearing a spiritual mask. So let's reframe this in a way that is both spiritually mature and emotionally honest. Emotions are not obstacles. Emotions are messages with timing. They are not always true in the way a fact is true, but they are always meaningful in the way a signal is meaningful. They are the body's way of saying, something matters here. And the timing part matters, because emotions often arrive after your nervous system has already made an interpretation, often very quickly, often outside your conscious awareness. This is one of the most liberating things to understand if you want to stop fighting yourself. Your nervous system is not waiting for you to sit down and calmly analyze the situation before it decides how to respond. It is constantly scanning through sight, sound, tone, memory, facial expression, posture, pace, social cues, and subtle similarities to past experiences. Neuroscientists sometimes describe this as the brain's job of prediction. It is always asking, what is happening? What does this mean? Am I safe? What do I need to do? Much of this happens faster than language. And then, after a meaning is assigned, after an interpretation is made, your emotions rise as the felt expression of that interpretation. So the emotion is not the first step. The meaning is. That's why you can feel anxious in a moment that looks fine on the outside. The nervous system may have picked up a cue that resembles an earlier danger. That's why you can feel rejected even when no one has explicitly rejected you. The system may have sensed distance and translated it into threat based on old experiences. That's why a small disappointment can feel huge. The system may be responding not only to what happened today, but to a whole history of what disappointment has meant in your life. When you see emotions this way, you stop arguing with them. You stop treating them like irrational enemies. Instead, you start relating to them like signals that deserve curiosity. Not the frantic curiosity of what's wrong with me, but the gentle curiosity of what is my system trying to protect right now. This is one of the places where modern psychology and ancient spirituality can actually shake hands. In therapy traditions that focus on emotions, a common theme is that feelings carry information. In emotion-focused therapy, for example, clinicians often speak about emotions as guiding signals that help us understand needs, boundaries, and values. In more body-centered approaches, the body is treated as a wise communicator, not a problem to override. And in contemplative traditions, when they are practiced with maturity, the goal is not to crush emotion, but to see clearly, to relate wisely, and to stop being ruled by reactivity. The confusion happens when spirituality gets used as an escape hatch. People sometimes call this spiritual bypassing, and it's worth naming gently because it shows up in almost everyone sooner or later. Spiritual bypassing is when you use spiritual ideas to avoid a human experience that feels uncomfortable. You jump to everything happens for a reason too quickly. You say, I'm sending love, when what you really feel is grief. You declare, I'm not attached, when you're actually hurt. You talk about forgiveness before you've even admitted you're angry. You interpret "be the witness" as "leave your body." You try to rise above feelings instead of meeting them where they live. The issue with bypassing is not that it's immoral. It's that it doesn't work. It might create temporary relief, but it does not create integration. It creates a split. Part of you is speaking in spiritual language, and part of you is still carrying the raw experience with no witness, no companionship, no place to land. Over time, that split makes your emotional life louder, not quieter, because what is not met tends to return in stronger forms. The nervous system doesn't respond to your philosophy, it responds to your presence. Tara Brach, in her book Radical Acceptance, talks about how the simple act of allowing what is here can begin to soften suffering. That doesn't mean you approve of everything. It means you stop adding the second arrow, the extra layer of self-judgment, resistance, and inner conflict that turns pain into torment. The Buddha's teachings often point to this same difference. Pain is part of life, but suffering grows when the mind insists that pain should not be happening. In this reframe, peace is not something you achieve by rising above feelings. Peace is something you cultivate by meeting feelings without panic. That last phrase matters. Without panic. Because the panic is what turns emotion into emergency. The panic is what makes you feel like you have to fix it right now. The panic is what makes you interpret the feeling as proof that you're failing. The panic is what makes you either lash out, shut down, scroll, snack, numb, overthink, overtalk, or collapse. The panic is what makes you abandon yourself right when you need yourself most. The feeling itself is often workable. It may be uncomfortable, but it's not always dangerous. What makes it dangerous is the belief that you can't handle it. So here's a line worth keeping close, because it's true in the most practical way. What you resist stays loud. What you welcome begins to soften. This is not a cute quote. It is a description of how the nervous system works. When you resist a feeling, you tighten around it. You brace. You argue. You shame yourself. You try to escape. And your system reads that bracing as a sign of danger. It thinks something is wrong. Mobilize more. So the emotion gets amplified. It gets louder, more persistent, more disruptive, because the system is trying to force your attention. When you welcome a feeling, not as in, "I like this," but as in, "I am willing to be here with this," you send a different message. You tell your system, "We're not in a crisis. We can stay present." And that, over time, is what begins to soften the intensity. Not instantly, not always dramatically, but reliably, in the way that trust grows. The system learns, through repeated experiences of being met, that feelings don't have to be treated like threats. Welcoming is not the same as indulging. Welcoming doesn't mean spiraling in the story. Welcoming doesn't mean feeding the fear with more fear. Welcoming means making room for the sensation of the feeling in the body, while holding it in a larger field of awareness. It means you stop turning the emotion into an identity statement. Instead of "I am anxious," you begin to experience "anxiety is moving through me." Instead of "I am broken," you begin to experience "something tender in me is asking for care." Instead of "I'll never be okay," you begin to experience "this is a wave and waves pass." That shift from identity to experience is a deeply spiritual shift, and it's also a very practical one. It loosens the grip of the emotion without denying its reality. This is also where timing becomes so important. Emotions often come late. They are not always about what is happening right now. They are often about what the nervous system believes is happening based on old memory. When a present moment resembles a past wound, the body may respond as if the wound is happening again. not because you're dramatic, but because the nervous system is built to prioritize survival. It would rather have a false alarm than miss a real danger. That's part of how humans made it this far. Bessel van der Kolk, in The Body Keeps the Score, explains how trauma is not just a story we remember. It's also a set of body responses that can get stuck in the system. Even if you know better, your body can still respond as if the threat is present. That's why you can talk yourself into calm and still feel your heart racing. That's why you can understand your triggers and still get flooded. That's why you can feel safe in your life and still feel unsafe in your body. If you don't understand timing, you'll keep misunderstanding yourself. You'll think you're reacting to the present, when in reality, the nervous system is reacting to a pattern. You'll think you're too sensitive, when in reality, your system is simply trained. You'll think healing should be linear, when in reality, healing is often cyclical. This is another place where spiritually aware people need a more compassionate map. We love the idea of steady progress. We love the idea of climbing. We love the idea of getting over it. But the nervous system doesn't heal like a ladder. It heals more like a spiral. You return to the same themes again and again, but each time you return, you have more awareness, more tools, more capacity, and more kindness. The outer shape may look repetitive, but the inner movement is different. You're not back at the beginning. You're meeting the same doorway with a new level of presence. Many contemplative traditions have always known this. In Buddhism, it's common to hear that the path involves revisiting the same attachments, the same aversions, the same illusions, not once, but many times, with increasing clarity. In Christian contemplative practice, people speak about seasons of dryness and seasons of consolation, where faith is not a straight line, but a deepening relationship. In mystical traditions across cultures, there is often a recognition that growth moves in cycles, descent and ascent, contraction and expansion, surrender and renewal. If you can normalize the cyclical nature of healing, you stop interpreting waves as setbacks. You start interpreting them as invitations, not invitations to suffer, but invitations to practice relationship, invitations to respond differently, invitations to choose presence over panic. And this is where the reframe becomes powerful enough to share with someone else. Emotions aren't obstacles. They're messengers with timing. They show you where your system is still protecting. They show you what matters to you. They show you where love has not yet met fear. They show you where a younger part of you still needs safety. They show you sometimes what is asking to be integrated next. When you treat emotions this way, you don't become emotionally indulgent. You become emotionally wise. You begin to listen without becoming consumed. You begin to hold feelings like weather, real, influential, sometimes intense, but not your identity and not your final truth. It also helps you stop making calm into a performance. Because if you think your emotions are obstacles, you will try to look peaceful as proof that you're doing spirituality correctly. But if you understand emotions as messengers, you stop needing to perform peace. Peace becomes something quieter, something more honest. The willingness to stay present with what's true without abandoning yourself. So when a wave comes, sadness, fear, anger, loneliness, shame, you don't have to say, "This shouldn't be here." Instead, you can say, "Hello. Something in me is trying to communicate." You don't have to rush to fix it. You don't have to diagnose it. You don't have to turn it into a spiritual emergency. You can simply begin with the most mature act there is, staying with yourself. This is how your spiritual path stops being an escape and becomes a home.